Hello everyone and welcome to the YouTube channel of BeingACCA. This is Tushita Gupta, ACCA affiliate, and in this video we are going to be solving Daisy Company. This is the first section C question given in the latest past paper which is available for the March 2024 attempt, which is your September-December 2023 exam. Now, without any further delay, let's get started with the question. Now, if you see, part A itself has two sub-requirements in its own. So before we read any question of the section C, the first thing that we are supposed to do is read the requirements, because what happens is if we read the case study first, then we move on to the requirements. Then by the time we read the requirements, we are already starting to forget what the case study said. So it's always better that you know what you're looking for, you know what requirement you are asked, and then you get on to the case study, just so that you are mindfully reading the case study. By mindfully, I mean you are reading in the case study what is important, you are jotting down, you know what you are looking for, so that if you find any relevant information which might be helpful in the requirement, you can highlight that information. All right, so now let's resume to reading the requirements. So the first thing that we have is advise Daisy Company's production manager on whether either of the joint products should be further processed. So I know by reading the first requirement itself that this question is something about the further processing, like the joint processes. So we have to decide whether either of the joint products should be further processed or not. So I have highlighted this, and always look for and in the requirement. This means there is something extra that we are supposed to do. So, and we have to calculate the optimal production plan for the period. So this is the second requirement that we have. Then the requirement 2 is based on the optimal production plan given for period 4. We have to prepare a profit statement. This pertains to period 4. So for the time being, let us deal with the period 3. So let's get started with A1. So this is A and this is 1. We can also put in a heading over here that this is our whether either of the joint products should be further processed, right? And the optimal production plan, we will again try to put a heading for that. Okay, let's leave it like that for the time being, then we can come back to the formatting later. So this is our header, and then so see, over here we are assessing whether or not we should process this thing further. So when will processing further be beneficial? Processing further will always be beneficial if there is something extra profit that you are able to generate because of processing that further. And when I say extra profit, a word should immediately come to your mind, which is incremental. So we will have a look at the incremental revenues that we are going to be making, also comparing it with the incremental costs that we are incurring, so that we know if in incremental do we have any profit or do we have any loss, and accordingly we will decide whether or not we want to process these products further. So let's read the scenario now. Daisy Company is a large chemical company. One of its chemical processes produces two joint products, nettle and monkey. Each of these joint products can be sold at the end of the joint process, which is the separation point, or can be further enhanced, further processed into enhanced versions of the products called nettle plus and monkey plus. The budget information relating to the joint process and the further processing in period 3, which is our first requirement, is shown in the following table. So we have the information for period 3, and then it talks about period 4. So for the time being, for part 1A, I need information just till this point. So I will have a look what all is given to me. I have my total output, then I have joint process cost. This is the total cost, direct material and overheads. Then I have the regards to nettle and monkey. These are the joint apportioned costs, and it is mentioned that we are supposed to read note 1. So note 1 says joint costs are apportioned on the basis of output. So basically the output is in the ratio of 3:2. So this is how these 8310 have been apportioned to nettle and monkey. Now we are also told this will be the selling price at the split off. At the split off means at the separation. So when the joint process ends, 20 is the selling price of Nettle and 18 is the selling price of Monkey. And if we process these products further, Nettle will be sold for 25 and Monkey Plus will be sold for $29. And the further processing cost is also given, $8 and $4 respectively for both. And we also have a normal loss in case of Monkey, which is 10%. Again, let's read note 2. Normal losses occur at the end of the further processing. Then we also have the selling price of the normal loss. Whatever loss, the 10% loss that we will incur in Monkey, the waste that we generate will be sold off at $1.5 per liter. So Daisy Company's production manager for this process needs to decide on the optimal production plan for period 3. She is unsure if either of the joint products should be further processed after the separation point, and she needs our advice, which is the first requirement. So let's get on to this. See, first of all, let me label this over here. This is for Nettle and this is for Monkey. So at present, if we sell our goods, which is N and M, at the normal price after like not processing them further, how much will our revenue be is what we are going to calculate first. So if I am selling these both at the separation point, so my revenue at separation point is going to be how much my output for Nettle is 300,000 units, and I can multiply that by the selling price at split off, which is 20. So this is my revenue. Similarly for Monkey, I'm producing 200,000 units and I will multiply that by the selling price, which is 18. So this is the revenue that I have at my separation point. Now if I want to process them further, how much will be my revenue? Revenue after further processing. So the revenue after further processing will be, first of all, I will have 300,000. I will have the entire 300,000 because the normal loss is 0 in case of Nettle. So the selling price is 25. And then for the case of Monkey, I have 200,000 units. But I'm going to lose out 10% out of that. That means 90% will be sold as Monkey Plus, and I have to multiply that by the selling price, which is 29. So this is how I have my revenue if I further process Monkey. Then I will also be able to sell off this normal loss that I will incur. So normal loss will be normal loss sell off. So this will be equal to 10% of 200,000 multiplied by 1.5 is the price that we are getting per liter. So this is the revenue that I generate in total. So now I can also calculate my incremental revenue. So my total revenue after further processing is basically this value plus the normal loss which I am selling. So this I will copy paste to this cell also. This is my total revenue that I will generate if I further process these two products. So now I can find out my incremental revenue, that how much is the change, how much extra am I going to get after processing them further. So it will going to be the difference between these two things. Right, I can copy paste this formula over here also. So this is the additional revenue that I have now. Now I'm going to calculate my incremental cost. If I process these products further, I'm also going to have to incur some costs, right? So the further processing cost is given 8 and 4. So equals to 8 multiplied by the number of units, which is 300,000. And then I also have 4 multiplied by 200,000. So this is my additional cost which I have to incur in order to process them further. Now I can find out how much is the total that I am getting if I process these further. So it is going to be the difference between revenue and cost. Now this is coming out to be a negative figure, which means I am going to incur a loss if I process this further. However, for the case of monkey, if I process monkey further, I am going to have an increase in my profit of $850,000. That means if I process the monkey product further, make it into monkey plus, I'm going to get $850,000 extra in my pocket. So that means this is going to be a beneficial thing. We can also change the formatting a little bit. So this can be done like, let's make it to currency rather. Right. So this is how it will look. So this is my incremental profit, and 900,000 is in a negative figure, which represents my loss. So what advice will we give them? We have to give them the advice, right? So the advice will be advice to Daisy Company's production manager. Daisy Company's production manager. Produce how many units of 300,000 units of nettle, and you will produce how many? 200,000 will only give me 10% will be the normal loss. So 10% of 200,000 will be 20,000, and that will give me 180,000 units of monkey plus for my optimal production plan. So this is the advice that we will be giving them. They will produce 200,000 liters of monkey, and then they will process that further and make 180,000 units of monkey plus. So they will, we can also mention over here, and do not process it further, produce 200,000 units of monkey and process them further to produce 180,000 units of monkey plus. We can also mention that doing this will give us an additional profit of $850,000. So this is how we have answered this question, and we also have to calculate the optimal production plan. So we will write that the optimal production plan is nothing but to produce 300,000 of nettle and 180,000 units of liters of monkey plus. So I can also, like, although the advice has already been given, but since the optimal production plan is required as a separate thing in the requirement, I will say optimal production plan is how much? 300,000 units of nettle, 180,000 units of monkey plus. Right? So with this, we are done with part A of our requirement, A1 of our requirement. Now we have to move to second one. Based on the optimal production plan given for period 4, we have to prepare a profit statement showing each product's profit in the 4th period. So now we will move to this part of the information. In period 4, it has been decided that 280,000 liters of nettle and 220,000 liters of monkey plus will be produced. Apportioned joint costs for period 4 are this much and this much. Okay, so the joint costs are, which were these over here, have already been given to us, and now we have to say that the selling prices for the processing costs and everything are remaining the same as they were in the period 3. So that information remains constant, but only the fixed, like the joint apportioned cost has changed, and it has given us the changed thing also. So now we have to prepare the profit statement showing each product's profit. It's very important that we show each product's profit separately. So we will put the header over here that this is part A, part 2. We can copy paste some part from it over here, profit statement for period 4. So I can copy paste this. Oh, okay, so I can type this profit statement for period 4. All right, so now I also have to show these products like separately. So I can also copy paste some workings from here, Nettle and Monkey. So I can copy paste this here. Now the first thing in my profit statement is my revenue. So my revenue is going to be calculated as, so I'm going to be producing how many liters of nettle? It's 280,000 liters of nettle. So my revenue is going to be 280,000 multiplied by how much was the selling price for nettle? Nettle is sold for 20. And then I have to calculate the same for monkey also. So it is mentioned that we are making 220,000 liters of monkey plus. So if you calculate the revenue of monkey plus, we are making 220,000 liters. And this 220,000, we are going to incur a normal loss again, and we will get the revenue only on the remaining part, which stays after the normal loss. The selling price after further processing is 29. So this is the revenue that I'm going to generate from Monkey Plus. Now I have covered the revenue side of the part. Now I also have to take my revenue from normal loss. Normal loss also is something that, the revenue is going to come in. So of my 220, is it? Yeah. So of my 220,000, 10% is going to be the normal loss, and that 10% is going to be sold at my price of 1.5. So this is the revenue that I'm going to make from the normal loss, which I will incur in Monkey Plus. Now I have to look at my cost side. So first of all, I have to see my apportioned joint cost. So my apportioned joint cost is also given over here. It is 4.5 this for monkey and 3.3 million for monkey plus. Sorry, 4.5 million for nettle and 3.3 million for monkey plus. So these are my apportioned joint costs. Now the next thing I have to take into consideration is the further processing cost. There is no further processing for nettle, so it's going to be 0 for nettle. And for monkey, I am processing 220,000 units, and the processing cost is given to be 4. So this is the further processing cost that I have with me. Now I just have to work out my profit because I have considered everything. So my profit will be this. So I'm adding all the revenue and subtracting all the costs. So this is going to be my profit for nettle, and I can copy paste the same formula to monkey, and this is going to be my profit from monkey plus. So these are the values. Again, I can format it in the currency. Right. So this is the profit for period 4 that I'm going to be generating. To make this table look neater, you can always format it and put it in a box. So this is how you can put your answers in the box. Right? Now this is put in a box. With this, we have also answered the second requirement. We have shown the profit statement showing each product's profit for the period 4. Now we have answered these requirements. Let's move on to requirement B. Requirement B is a requirement which does not involve numbers, so it's a discursive requirement. And requirement C also is something which is not involving numbers. This is also something which is a discursive requirement. So we are going back to the part B. Part B says, explain why joint processing costs are considered irrelevant when making the further processing decision, but are considered relevant when assessing the profitability of the overall process. So see, First, let's break down the requirement. It's a 3 marks requirement. That means probably explaining enough for 1.5 marks for one side and 1.5 marks for the other side. So we have to explain that when we are considering joint processing costs, these are irrelevant in the further processing. But when we are deciding about the profitability of the entire process as a whole, then we consider the joint processing costs as relevant. So let's understand the first part first, that when we are looking at the further processing decision, why are we considering the joint processing costs irrelevant? So see, first of all, whenever two products are prepared together in one process, it is not possible to identify that how much of the cost is going to be allocated to which of the products, because these products are not identifiable before they go into that process. So after they go to that process, then at the separation, you are taking the decision that whether or not we have to process them further. So this decision is something which is taken after the joint cost has already been incurred. The joint processing cost has already been incurred once they are at the separation point. So this becomes a sunk cost, and sunk costs are irrelevant. So that is why this answers the first part of the requirement, that when we are considering the further processing decision, your joint processing costs will be considered irrelevant. Now let's come to the second part of the question. The second part of the question says, when we are assessing the profitability of the overall process, then why are we considering the further processing, like the joint processing costs as relevant? So when we are looking at the profitability of the entire process, that means we are evaluating the process as a whole. We are looking at the total costs in the process, and we're also looking at the total revenue of that process. So just so that we can identify how much total profit is coming out of the overall process. So at this point, we can also decide, looking at the profits or losses, we can also decide whether or not we want this process to happen. And if we cancel this process, that means these joint processing costs can also be saved, because the entire process is being cancelled. So that is why, since these costs are not yet incurred, these are considered relevant because these are the costs which determine the overall profitability of the process. So that is why they are considered relevant in this scenario. Moving on to the next requirement that we have. The next requirement says, discuss the benefits of Daisy Company investing in an enterprise resource planning system. So basically, over here, there are 6 marks available. First of all, whenever we write a theoretical question, we are supposed to explain what the ERP system is. So we have to explain that ERP system is one such software with which all of the information pertaining to different segments of the business, like finance, like operations, like planning, everything will come together over one software. And this is the software that ERP is. Now, once you have explained what ERP is, then the next thing will be to write your answer in subheaders. Firstly, we will explain what is ERP. Then we will explain 3 benefits, because 6 marks, 2 benefits for one, 2 marks for 1 benefit. So that's why we are discussing 3 points over here. So the first point that you can discuss regarding ERP systems is that ERP systems will facilitate timely and effective decisions. Now, how is that going to happen? So when the production manager will be able to see that how much is the production going on, how efficient this is, so they will have all the data together in one place. So it will be easy for them to access the data at the right time, and because they will have the data at the right time, they will be able to take quicker decisions, which will lead to efficiency and effectiveness. So this is the first point. Then the next subheader that you can use is information about efficiency. So there is, we are, told over here that there are normal losses which are incurred in Monkey. So with this, the information that ERP system will give you, you can also, using that information, figure out ways that how this normal loss can be reduced. And you can also keep checking that this normal loss is not going above 10%. 10% is the normal loss, but this should not be 15 or 20%. That if it is 15 or 20%, that means your labor is not working efficiently or the process has something wrong about it. And you can also try to find ways to reduce even this 10% normal loss which is there. Now, the third point you can also talk about as a benefit of the ERP system is that you can elimination of repetitive manual processes. So now that you will be putting in place an ERP system, there is also going to be an elimination of all the repetitive manual processes that the people do. For example, maintaining of spreadsheets by the accountants and everything. So that way, even the staff can also be required to maintain some sort of spreadsheets with them. So all of this repetitive manual process will be eliminated, and it'll all be available in one place over the ERP system. So this is how Daisy company is going to benefit from investing in an ERP system. But at the same time, when we are concluding our answer, we'll also present the cost side to be taken into consideration. We will tell Daisy company that please do, when you are investing in an ERP system, it's going to cost you a lot. So you probably, there is no benefit if the cost of this system is more than the benefits that you're getting out of it. So it is very important that you please conduct a cost benefit analysis of implementing the ERP system in your company. So this is how your answer will be perfect. Usually the students in the exam will only write these 3 points, and it is okay to write just these 3 points. But if you do what I told you to do at the beginning and what I told you to do at the end, this is going to give a good impression to the examiner. This makes your answer more comprehensive. You have considered both the sides of the story, the benefits as well as the costs. So this is how you will answer this requirement. With this, we have come to an end to Daisy Company, which is a question from September-December 2023 exams. I hope that this was useful. If you have any doubts, please feel free to comment down below, or you can message us on BeingACCA on Instagram, and we'll be happy to help you. Yeah, I hope that this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.